Hello and welcome to our mini web series, ProWize, where you can gain wisdom and insight on all things MSPs. My name is Caitlin and I'm the marketing coordinator here at ProVol Tech. And for our first video of our ProWize series, we are joined by our RMM admin, Tom. For this video, we wanted to discuss with you the importance of an RMM tool for MSPs and why it could be beneficial to your company to hire a consulting team, not only to double your team's time, but to get more clients for your MSP. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
All right, so to start off this video, Tom, explain to us what an RMM tool is and why they are necessary for MSPs.
Yeah, so an RMM tool is absolutely necessary for any MSP out there. Managing IT infrastructure requires a lot of different tools just by nature. It requires organization, it requires scalability, and your RMM tool is what's going to bring all of those things under one roof. They support multi-tenancy for supporting multiple customers at the same time, and they're kind of essential for keeping organized while you're supporting multiple environments. They allow you to do things like apply patches, apply policy, and other automation in a scalable way. And you need this type of tool if you're going to stay afloat and proactively fix issues. So essentially, you need this tool because this is what successful MSPs are using to deliver their services to a lot of different customers efficiently at the same time.
Interesting, Tom. So it seems like an RMM tool is very powerful to learn. Can you explain why this may be?
Yeah, and I think that because IT management is something that a lot of companies approach differently, most of these tools are kind of built to just come with like a framework setup out of the box. There's usually lots of built-in content, but most of it's not plug and play. And the tools come with a steep learning curve. So it's kind of important to understand what's going on under the hood before you start just putting computers into policies. And the other part of this that makes it kind of difficult is that the beginning stages that you're setting up your RMM tool are absolutely vital. That is essentially the foundation that you're building off of for your entire stack to live on.
Now, to go off that answer, or what kind of time does an RMM tool require to be optimal?
So I am of the opinion that MSPs of any size should have at least one person who is full-time NOC engineer working on the tool every single day. The RMM tool ends up kind of acting as the orchestrator for all the different facets of IT management, which are all constantly changing. So that's patch management, application management, plugin updates, configuring and updating scripts, setting up monitors, and many more things. And each of those modules require some sort of routine maintenance to continue to be effective over time. And that translates to a ton of time that's needed to get the most value out of it. And that's on an ongoing basis too.
Well, Tom, that was really great insight about the functionality of the RMM tool. That is a lot of time for the average MSP to dedicate to a tool. Can you speak about our RMM consulting program and how this may help MSP solve this?
Yeah, absolutely. So ProVal does consulting on ConnectWise Automate. We do consulting on Kaseya, and we're currently in the process of ramping up programs for some of the newer tools on the market like ConnectWise RMM and Datto RMM. And essentially, ProVal onboards partners, and while we're doing that, we're helping them identify and resolve the issues that they're currently facing with their tool, and then we work to bring them into alignment with what we consider to be best practices. So we go through our stack with the partner of content that we've developed, and we start to import content that the partner's interested in. And then from there, we're holding monthly consulting calls, providing ongoing support and maintenance for their tool. And our dev team is hard at work continuously developing and updating new content for our partners based on what's happening in the industry.
I noticed that you mentioned the onboarding process in the last question. Would you mind going a little bit more into detail on how Proval's onboarding process works?
For sure. Yes. So we conduct a full audit of the partner's environment. We start kind of at the very high level and then we work our way down into the weeds and the details. We tackle this project in multiple phases, and the entire time we're just working towards kind of getting the partner closer to best practices with each step. We're helping them tune ticket noise for alerts that are getting generated. We're looking for deprecated and obsolete automation that may still be in their system so that we can get that cycled out. And we're doing a lot more too. So during that process, we're doing essentially what we consider to be bringing you into alignment with best practices. But one of the things that I want to stress is that you have your way of doing things, and we're not there to change the way that your system works all around or any of your core competencies. At each phase of essentially beginning of each phase of this project, we're working with your team, having an actual discussion and talking about how we're going to make this fit your business model. So it ends up being a very collaborative thing where it's, working two ways. So, and then to essentially once that project is over, we also do a training session with your team to kind of go over some of the kind of the finer details of the tool and show the team how to use the content that we've imported.
That is great. Now, to switch gears a little bit onto another topic, what exactly is ProVol doing to optimize patching for partners in their RMM?
Yes, so this is a big thing. So it kind of goes back to just the ongoing consulting and support that we're doing. So we're reviewing patching stats regularly for our partners. We do patch approvals. We work directly with the MSP that we're working with to set up best practice automation surrounding the entire patching cycle. So that's everything from approvals to setting up a proper install window and then making sure that devices are rebooting to finish applying those patches. So, and the other cool thing is we're always coming up with new ways to gather and look at the data surrounding patching so that you can always be informed as far as what's going on with keeping your systems up to date.
Which I know is important. I also know that ProVol manages patch approval and denial for MSP partners as well, including zero-day incidents. These incidents are very important for MSPs to be on top of. Can you go a little bit into depth on how we are handling zero-day incidents for partners?
Yeah, so many of us consultants here, actually the entire company, I would say, keeps a pretty steady pulse on the MSP industry. Most of us are in the MSP subreddit every single day, just keeping tabs on what's going on. So sometimes it's a new patch that comes through and starts breaking printing. Sometimes it's a full-on zero-day vulnerability that's, actively being exploited in the wild. But what it boils down to is that if something is happening in the industry, both our support and our development teams are switching gears immediately. We're going to help make our partners aware, and then we're going to see what we can do to help them utilize their RMM tool to help prevent, detect, and remediate the issue wherever possible.
To go off that question, what are MSPs doing to handle these situations and what could they be doing to make it better?
Yeah, so when these things happen, I think it ends up being a lot of waiting to hear from the security vendor, waiting to hear from the application vendor to see what kind of patch is being released. One of the best things that you can do to stay in the loop is visiting some of the communities out there, like the MSP subreddit, for example. What you'll find is that a lot of IT people out there like to be informed, and they always kind of congregate in these places where, everybody's collaborating, gathering information, figuring out workarounds for responding to the, whatever valid threat is out there. And that's the best way to make sure that you've got a pulse on things is just, seeing how other MSPs in the market are responding to these things. Because what you'll find is a lot of vendors out there are also working on responses to those things. And that's the best way to make sure that you are kind of applying the latest fixes for whatever it is you're dealing with.
For sure. I know the MSP community, especially on Reddit itself, is very informative and they're always there to help. So,
Mhm.
using those resources as well is a great thing. On top
For
of
sure.
patching, what does ProVol offer for reporting?
Yeah, so we're looking at the entire database. We have lots of views out there that can kind of give you a glimpse of an organized fashion of how your Active Directory plugin is working. We can pull lots of good information surrounding that. We're able to track the effectiveness of the scripts that are running in your environment. We're able to look at the Windows 10 feature update version distribution throughout your environment. So basically, we're always getting ideas from our partners for new content and new reports to create. And those are the things that we are often working on doing is just getting things in there that help you see what's going on in your system and get the most value out of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom. That is really great insight that I think can help some MSPs out there. Getting back to the RMM consulting process, what is the biggest value you would say ProVol Tech is offering MSPs with their consulting program?
Yeah, so I would say that we provide value in two major ways. So the first is that we're doing our ongoing support and we're providing expertise on anything that our customers have questions on. And I want to stress that we do genuine MSP consulting. So it's more than just, hey, build us this script or set up this monitor. We want to get into the details with you of the problems that you're actually trying to solve, and we want to help you approach it the right way right from the get-go. And what we find is that a lot of our partners are tackling pretty similar issues, and the solutions that we come up with end up being on our radar as development ideas for new content. So that's essentially what drives our content development process is the ideas that we're getting from our partners. And this ends up creating kind of a mutually beneficial loop for both us and the people that we support. So that ends up being one of the two things. But the second thing that I think is extremely valuable is that we're helping our partners save time. So we're saving your technicians time with every new thing that we help them automate. And our partners are backed by our entire ProVal support team and our consultants who work very closely together with each other. And collectively, the consultants have a wealth of MSP experience in their backgrounds. So whether your question's technical or theoretical, you can loop us in for just about anything that you need guidance on, and we're going to give you genuine support there. And on top of all that, our development team is always hard at work putting out quality solutions and updating existing solutions to help improve the final product that MSPs are offering their customers. So we're also doing custom development work to help our partners tackle specific issues when those arise too.
Now I know Proval itself has worked with hundreds of MSPs throughout the years. What kind of things have you been seeing that our partners have been asking for?
Lots of ticket tuning. So it takes time to trim a solution down to the point where it's watching everything that it needs to. It's taking automatic remediation steps where possible, and it's only actually creating an alert that a human needs to look at if it's something that's actually actionable. And this is kind of an ongoing process for most MSPs because content runs its cycle. And our partners also request scripts to help them install and remove software, new reports so that they can quickly pull key information from the database, and automation that can act on the things that are found in those reports. So often it's us kind of looking at tasks that they're doing manually and finding a way to save them the trouble of having to do that manually and use up a human resource where you could just have the system do it for you.
Now, from your perspective and working in the MSP industry to now helping MSPs, what would be your advice or insight on how MSPs can scale their business?
Yes. So for scaling, you're going to want to make sure that you are standardizing what you're offering and you're optimizing the delivery of those services. And luckily, your RMM tool can do the heavy lifting with both of those. So one thing specifically I want to highlight that we do for our partners is we look at their onboarding process for their new customers and we work to make that as seamless as possible for them. It usually ends up becoming a all you need to do is check this one box, and now every computer for the customer that you just imported gets sorted into the proper groups based on the roles that are detected, based on the software that's detected. They'll have your standard monitors and maintenance scripts. They'll install your management software automatically, and they'll receive a patch policy. So essentially, one click and go, you're done. You can kick your feet up and just watch the automation take place. And many of our partners even trust the automation part of that so much they don't even want to click that initial checkbox. They just want to import it and be hands off and watch the system take care of the rest. So essentially, to answer your question, to grow properly, the MSP needs to get to a point where they have automation in place that gives them back the time they need to focus on their customers and finding new customers.
Now, in your last response just now, you stated a lot about automation. What do you see that MSPs aren't automating that you think they really should be?
It comes down to figuring out, yeah, essentially figuring out what you need to automate. So you should be evaluating anything that you're doing when you see a certain alert come in. If you're taking an action on it every single time you see it, then you should be looking at the actual remediation steps down to the details and saying, hey, every time this alert comes in, I'm running the same exact script. We should be setting this up so this script is automatically run and then checking for the failure condition again before you put a ticket in front of a human. Don't waste somebody's time looking at something when you know that they're going to do the same thing in response each time. And even small details like if tickets are generating from your RMM tool, you want to make sure that they are generating with the proper information, priorities, service types, and so on already set so that you can get those categorized and assigned out properly. You don't need to have your dispatcher taking something that's generated by your tool and assigning properties to it manually when you can have the tool do it for you. So whether it's a big thing or a little thing, you should be looking for anywhere that you can be saving yourself time.
Yeah, I know one of our little mottos here at Proval, it's if you have to do it more than one time, let's automate it.
Mhm.
So, that is really important, I think, for MSPs to hear, especially those who are trying to save time and, build their clientele base. From what you have noted in your last response, what are some scripts that Proval has that you have noticed are significantly helping the MSP community?
Yeah, so one that just came around pretty recently, actually, we built a custom disk cleanup solution. It's a customizable tool that essentially we built it in-house from scratch. It can do cool things like scanning custom directories that you specify. It can go through and empty out recycle bins for each user, clears out files older than X amount of days, and a lot more. The tool itself is essentially built to be platform agnostic executable so that it can be run by any RMM tool out there on the market. And there are many disk cleanup solutions out there, so we had to build ours to be flexible, portable, and customizable so that it can meet the various needs of our partners. But that highlights kind of the development approach that we're taking here to make sure that partners can get the most value out of the solutions that we're building. And our development team has also leveraged the ability to create custom tables in the RMM tool ConnectWise Automate so that we can track and monitor things like the last time a group policy object was modified, for example, or when a certificate on an application server is set to expire soon. And these are just a couple examples of how ProVal is looking to expand on the functionality of the RMM tool and bring additional proactive monitoring underneath that umbrella that we talked about.
Awesome. I know that is just a few of our scripts to help the daily functions of the MSPs, that can be a huge benefit to them and to their partners and clientele base. Well, Tom, we really appreciate you joining us today as this closes out our RMM consulting video here on our new ProWize series. I'm sure this has been a great help on giving some insight to MSPs and RMM consulting as a whole. If you're watching this and you do have any questions, something that you thought of when watching this video or something you've always had a question about, please comment them down below and we will make sure to answer them. Please make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications. We post weekly videos on all of our RMM tools, as well as, to join us for another video in our ProWise series. So we can't wait to see you next month. And Tom, once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.